Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to see how to automate our deployment with AWS code pipeline. So before we get started, I have created a series on continuous integration and deployment with AWS code services. So this is a continuation of that series. So if you haven't watched that particular series, so this is a continuation of that. So kindly watch the previous video so that you will be getting understand on how to use the AWS code services. So the AWS code services which I use till now is AWS code commit and AWS code build and AWS code deploy. In this video, we are going to see about AWS code pipeline. So what is AWS code pipeline? So AWS code pipeline is a highly available continuous integration and continuous delivery service in the cloud. AWS code pipeline, it will define the workflow to describe our software release process. The workflow is divided into stages. So each stage is comprised of one or more actions, and action stages are connected by transitions. Actions can be anything like from building or deploying to publishing to an SNS topic for manual approval, or even executing an AWS Lambda function also. So transitions are visually represented as arrows from one stage to the next. So basically, when a stage succeeds, it creates an output artifact. So we can keep these artifacts in an S3 bucket that is managed by AWS code pipeline. And also the stages which are using the artifact, right? As it will be inputting those artifacts to perform actions on. And if a stage gets failed, subsequent stages are not executed. For example, assume we have a build stage and a deploy stage. If the build stage gets failed for some reason, AWS code pipeline will not attempt to deploy. So the entire pipeline is executed when a new source code revision is detected. Only when at that time only the pipeline will be executing. So in this video, we are going to create an end-to-end deployment pipeline that uses the AWS code services. Which we have in the previous video, we have created a repository and we have done code build and we have used the code deploy, right? So those three things will be getting combined in here as an end-to-end deployment. So now we are going to see in place deployment group. That is, we have defined an AWS code deploy, right, in the previous video. So that part we are going to use it. So I am already in the AWS code pipeline. So now I'm going to create the pipeline. I am giving a name for this pipeline as okay, same name I am giving. Okay, I'm using the existing service role. And you can keep these artifacts or the advanced setting like artifact store and these things you can keep it as default. And here the source provider, it need to be chosen as AWS code commit. Why? Because in AWS code commit repository where our application has been living. So I am giving AWS code commit as the source. And here you can see our repository name and the branch name is master. And the deduction option we should choose as AWS code pipeline, right? Why? Because if I do any change in the code commit repository, automatically this code pipeline will need to detect, okay, some changes been implemented. So kindly trigger the pipeline. And the output artifact, it should be I'm just giving as a code pipeline at default. And I'm clicking on next. And here the code build. So as we have already have a AWS code build, right? This is where our application has been built. So I am choosing it here, and the project name I'm giving as Mac app, and the build type I'm giving as a trigger a single build. And here in the deploy, I am currently giving a skip deploy stage. So currently I'm giving skip deploy stage. why I'm giving skip deploy stage is like when we are giving selecting node deployment, right? It will let you see like how to add a pipeline stage in the GUI, and it also avoids the default deploy label of staging. And also we can't able to rename pipeline stage once it is created. So that is why I'm just giving skip deploy stage. So I am going to click on create pipeline. Our pipeline has been successfully created. Now what I'm going to give is I'm going to add a new stage in the code pipeline. Here you can see it, right? Source and build and these things. Now I'm going to click on edit. Under build, I'm going to give a new name called production, right? Add stage, and here you can see add action group, right? So here you can give what is action name and action provider. Here you can see multiple things. So now we are going to add the deploy action provider here. So the action name I'm going to give as code deploy, and in the action provider I'm going to select the deploy AWS code deploy, and the input artifact I'm going to give build artifact, and the application name is Mac app, that is we have built in the code build. Now I'm going to select in place deployment group. So I'm clicking on done, and once it is done, and I'm going to save. I have clicked save. So any code commit, if we are going to push in the AWS code commit repository, we'll go through this pipeline, and after that it will result in an in-place deployment using AWS code deploy. So in this video, we have constructed a continuous deployment pipeline using AWS code pipeline, and also we have used the wizard to construct an initial pipeline, that is a production stage we have newly added, and also we have modified the pipeline by adding a deployment stage, that is a production one. In the next video, I am going to explain how to this has been done, right? So I'm going to do some small modification in the code commit repository, and we are going to see how this been the deployment, how it has been automated, and how the in place it has been working on. So stay tuned for that video.